Bestinver was created 35 years ago and today is the leading independent asset manager in Spain. It has more than €5.5 billion of assets under management and 50,000 investors. Bestinver is part of Acciona, a leading player in the infrastructure market for over 100 years. 2.5 years ago, Bestinver launched its infrastructure funds management business. The aim was to provide investors access to high-quality infrastructure assets with a strong commitment to sustainability. Francisco del Pozo is the head of the infrastructure funds at Bestinver and is with us today to explain more about its strategy. Francisco has more than 20 years of experience in the infrastructure investment space. He earned his MBA from Columbia Business School and the Advanced Management Programme at Harvard Business School. Francisco, welcome.
Thanks, Jordi. Thanks for having me, and so happy to be here with with the European and have the opportunity to talk about Bestinver and infrastructure fund area.
As I said, it's now been 2.5 years since Bestinver launched its first infrastructure funds. Can you walk us through the key milestones?
Yeah, it's been time actually flies, right? So it's been a little bit over 2 years. We've been able to hit some key milestones. So the first one was actually getting to the 300 million. That was the goal of the fund. So that was really good. We're also able to get 700 investors behind the fund. So, having such a big number of investors is something that makes us really proud, and it actually proved that, the idea was good. So what started really as an idea 2 years ago is now a reality. We have the fund, we have invested a lot of the fund, and we've hit a lot of milestones. And the other thing that I will mention, it was actually great to being able to combine Acciona experience as a global developer of infrastructure with Bestinver as an asset manager, as independent asset manager. And the fact that we're able to combine those two things, make a business that is really powerful, right? It has a lot of good things, and we can actually see that the business is going to grow if we keep doing the things the way we've done it for the last 2 years.
How much of the fund is currently invested, and can you tell us more about what makes up the portfolio?
Yeah, so we have already deployed 85% of the fund. That's actually quite a successful history because, being able to deploy 85% of the fund during the fundraising period over the 2 years is something that is not that normal. We're also able to start giving distribution back to the investors from day one because we're able to buy assets that give us, dividends and then passing that to investors. So we've closed 9 transactions. So, we've been able to invest in 3 sectors. So we invested in, the renewable energy, with solar and wind assets. We invested in transportation, so roads and highways, and what we call social infrastructure, so universities and hospital. And through those 9 transactions, we've been able to buy assets in 13 countries. So it's actually quite a global portfolio. We have assets in the US, in Canada, in Mexico, in Chile, in Spain, in Portugal, in Australia. So it's really a global portfolio that we've been able to build over the last 2 years.
Where are you looking to invest? What is the thesis, I suppose, the philosophy of the fund?
So we're looking to invest in, really 5 sectors. So in the transportation, social infrastructure, water, telecom, and renewable energy. We've been able to invest in 3 of them. We are still looking to deploy capital in the other 2 sectors. And then really the thesis for the fund is we invest in Europe, North America, and Latin America. Invest in different technologies. We are always trying to create funds that are very diversified. So there is a little correlation between assets, so it actually makes the fund really robust, right? So, we normally look for, so far we've been buying operating assets, so we don't get construction or development risk. And we really are trying to set up something that is really stable and can support the, movement in the market for the next 10 years.
How much is sustainability a key driver of your investment decisions?
I think it's a lot. I think, we really feel that, we have a role to play in the sustainability of the world. So, we are always trying to find assets that have a positive impact in the society, in the local communities, and in the environment where we are investing. And so far, all the investment that we've done follow that thesis that, the ESG is really important. We need to invest in infrastructure assets that actually last normally for hundreds of years. And if they don't have a positive impact in the society, it's not good, no? And it's not good for the investment, and it's not good for the for the return for our investor, right? So we normally in all our investment decision, we really focus on making sure that all the investments are sustainable.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the executives that make up the team? Will we see that growing further in the future?
Yes, so we've been building the investment team for the last 2 years. We have now around 10 executives that all come with a very broad investment experience worldwide, really. And that team is really supported by 180 professionals that work in Bestinver. So the investment team is quite strong, and in addition to that, we have the whole company that is that is supporting the team. And I think we are always looking for high motivated professionals, executives that are aligned with our way of doing things, and we will see the team growing. So we expect over the next 12 months to really keep growing the team. Right, we need to support the asset that we have by having the right team in place, and we think we've done a very good job over the last 2 years, and it's something that we have to continue.
Bestinver is part of Acciona. Tell me a bit more about that relationship, if you would, how it's benefited Bestinver and ultimately investors.
Yes, so Bestinver, as you say, is part of Acciona. Acciona is one of the leading global developers of infrastructure. They've been in business for 100 years. They have a market cap of more than 10 billion. And they've been around the sector for a long time, right? So, the way we benefit at Bestinver, we are, 100% owned by Acciona. And the way we benefit is, when we look for investments, it's very easy to get help from Acciona to identify what are the right sectors, what are the right technologies, what are the right countries where they see a growth of infrastructure, right? So the way we use them and we work with them is really, they help us do the due diligence, they help us identify assets, they help us do the asset management once we have the assets under control. And, the relationship is great, right? Because we are basically a new fund that is able to leverage a company that has more than 40,000 employees in many countries. No? So it really gives us a head start, and we normally have access to investments where other funds don't have access to, and they don't see the value that we see. So overall, I think it's a very powerful relationship that we have with our parent company, and we use it at the best we can to actually benefit our investors.
There are a lot of macroeconomic and geopolitical challenges at the moment. I think inflation is one of the big ones, of course, playing on investors' minds. How is inflation affecting the portfolio?
So it's actually, a good thing for us because we mainly buy real assets, right? We buy infrastructure assets that are there for hundreds of years, and they normally get protected against inflation, right? Normally, when we have concession contracts, we have mechanisms in the revenues to be adjusted by inflation. So actually, what happened over the last 2 years is when inflation started hitting and people really started to be concerned about that, the value of our assets appreciated, right? So what happened is, a lot of investors really realize that, they are losing, purchasing power, and a good way for them to protect is actually to invest in infrastructure funds, right? So one of the reasons we're able to get to the 300 million was actually because of the inflation, right? Because a lot of our investors realized that, the fund was a good place to invest their money for the next 10 years and get actually protected against inflation, right? So although inflation is actually something that is really bad on our case, it was actually something positive, and we look forward to see the benefit of the inflation in our fund.
Has the infrastructure investment deal flow been affected by macroeconomic concerns?
I think what happened really is that the countries, based on everything that happened with Ukrainian war and the COVID-19, the countries realized that if you do a smart investment in infrastructure, you normally get value back on the long term, right? So I think if you think about from a macro perspective, I don't think there have been so many infrastructure plans at the same time for so many countries, right? Probably in the last 50 years. So what you've seen is a big appetite for investors to invest in infrastructure. One of the reasons because of the protection of the inflation, and then a lot of the countries really thinking that the way they move to the next stage and the way they grow their GDP is actually to make investment in infrastructure, right? So what we are seeing is there is a big pipeline of opportunities. I think there is a lot of money chasing infrastructure assets, and the governments are actually pushing a lot of those big plans, right? So the vision that we have is there's a lot of opportunities in the short term. There's not a lack of opportunities for us to deploy the capital of the fund, And we are really, we really look forward to the next 3-4 years, because we really think there is going to be a massive inflow of investment into infrastructure, and all the macroeconomics will actually help that deployment.
What are Bestinver's aspirations for the future for this fund?
Yeah, so I think when we launched the area, we said that we were going to get to 1.5 billion over the next 5 years. We've been doing this for 2 years. We raised our first funds very successfully and deployed. We still think we can hit that number. We still feel that the area is really set up for growth. We can now actually escalate it. We have the team, we have the investor behind us, we have the pipeline of projects. There is, as I mentioned, a lot of macroeconomic push to do more investment in infrastructure. So, we look really forward to hit that number and escalate the business. And, we think we've been able to set up a fantastic business. And, now is the time to actually, make it bigger and make sure we hit the numbers, and, we get as many investors to back our funds as possible.
Francisco Del Pozo from Bestinver, thank you so much.
Thanks, Georgie, for having me.